Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Delusions of Grandeur. I'm your host, David Strege, and here today I have in the room Mo. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. So today's film, since it's just the two of us, I'm putting this on Delusions of Grandeur instead of um, Inside Movies Galore, because then we can kind of do whatever we want to do with this conversation. So.
Right.
And then, I had to watch a couple of strange movies. I think Brandon did too, but he had some other shit to do with his wife and whatnot. But in any case, so the movie we have for today, folks, is a spoof of a science fiction film that it was filmed in 1974, and it was directed by the screenwriter of the film and creators Michael Benveniste and Howard Ziehm, or Ziehm, or however you want to say it. And Howard Ziehm is kind of a pioneer of the porn industry, actually. This was the first of three Universal spoof films,
Yes.
anyone who knows anything about Flash Gordon is there were a couple of series from the 1930s, and this film was produced by Walter R. Cici, Bill Osco, and Howard Ziehm, the director. But let's get into what this movie is about.
It's quite a spectacle.
Let's see what IMDb tells us. So Emperor Wang, the perverted, is a leader of the planet Porto and sends his mighty sex ray towards Earth, turning everyone into sex-mad fiends. Only one man can save the Earth. Football player Flash Gordon, along with his girlfriend Dale Ardent and Professor Flexi Jerkoff.
Fucking best character right there.
They set off towards the source of the sex ray, unaware of the perils that face them. So,
everything from Penisauruses to Congolens
to claymation, Ray Harryhausen, everyone.
Yes,
so,
sir.
But in any case, so since this is actually, is this your first viewing of this film? Actually,
yeah, I'd never honestly. I think I'd kind of heard the name before, sort of tossed around, but I never looked into it.
What was your experience like with this film?
Oh, I loved it, dude. I think it's actually, this is to like Flash Gordon what Spaceballs is to Star Wars, kind of, you know. It definitely is legitimately funny, not just because there's like dick-shaped stuff all over the place and you know, random nudity whenever they can fit it in there, you know. There's a lot of insane scenes in this movie that would have been insane without the backdrop of like the porn element, I guess, which is very tastefully done for what it is, you know. And it's soft core. So anybody out there curious about it, you don't got to worry that's like a full-on porno. It almost gets there, but.
Well, and originally we were going to do this as a two-part episode, but I actually believe that these both can stand alone on two different episodes, because this one has an entirely earlier feel to it. Like to me, going into this film, it feels like King Kong, you know, the 1970s King Kong, not the earlier. You know, the earlier 1933 King Kong, even though that one's really good. But to me, going into this film, it's got that feel of the 70s. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does, for sure.
and the just to mention the second one just for a moment, that is definitely a product of the 80s.
Right.
For some reason, to me, there's definitely a difference between the two, and that's why I wanted to tonight just specifically talk about this particular film, because it's actually kind of set up like a series,
It
of
is
films.
like a serial, you know.
Yeah, like the original 1960s Batman. Same time, same channel.
Yeah, it's great, and it adds a cool feel to it. You can tell it's like, as much of it as it's a spoof, it's definitely almost a really legitimate tribute to that stuff too, which is what makes it fun, you know.
Well, I actually found these films in the porn section of our exclusive company. It wasn't in the regular section; it was in the porn section. And there's a reason, because it does skate that softcore goreness, like you mentioned, and you can definitely tell that the directors are kind of gearing more towards the porno aspect of the film. And to be honest, porn kind of skates the line of horror, the line of science fiction, the line of everything down the road. There in this day and age, there really is no split in the middle. It's like kind of dead center. Okay, you're either just going to be a straight on sex fiend film, or you're going to be a straight none of that.
Right. Yeah.
So, but what do you think of Flesh Gordon, played by Jason Williams, his character in this particular film?
I thought that he did a pretty damn good job. I thought that the way they made him purposely repeat entire lines of dialogue, like when he's trying to wake up Flexi when they fall down that tube, that shit was funny because it's just intentionally bad, you know. And he was quite a buff specimen of a dude. He did pretty good in that fight with those she-males. That part was
I feel like the acting in this movie is definitely precedes the acting in the second film. To be honest, even though I like the second film over the first film, in some ways, but there are elements of both films that I enjoy, for sure. Like you mentioned, the penis rockets or the penis ships. Well,
yeah, that cock rocket rules.
These guys obliterated Austin Powers before. To me, Austin Powers was mocking these guys.
Yeah, I would honestly say that this is a better spoof than Austin Powers was, in my opinion. You know, like the humor in it is legitimately funny through a lot of it, you know. Like how Wang's calling people dildos the whole time, or the shit with the creature at the end, which I'm sure we'll get to. But there's just so much subtly funny about the movie too, on top, like layered within the dicks and the fucking power pasties and things like that, penisauruses and the shit that's like right dead on the nose. You know,
there's just so much random shit going on in this this movie that I had to share it, which is why I had to share it with you guys. It's just we went into that whole puppetry thing with Turkey Thanksgiving 3 last week. I had to at least, and I know the other guys didn't have the time to come on and whatnot, but I'm glad that you did, and so that I can share some of this, even though it's kind of a Christmas month. A little hilarity.
This is a gift that keeps on giving right here. You can watch this one a couple of times and it's still going to be funny, and you're going to pick up shit you didn't notice. I mean, from the get-go, when the fucking sex ray hits that plane that they're on and everyone just starts shredding their clothes and having an orgy right there, like, you know what you're in for. And it progressively gets funnier through the scene. It's not just like, oh, everyone's banging. Like when he has to jump out and with the fucking parachute and she slides down and it's just giving him a bidet on the way down. That shit was fucking great.
I think that's the one and only time that you will probably ever see, besides maybe and possibly Crank, Uh,
Yeah.
Bajay on the way down in a parachute. It's not like you're ever going to see an Operation Dumbo drop like that again. So,
Operation Dumbo drop. But and the movie doesn't let up too. Honestly, it's one of the more entertaining movies I've watched in like a month or so. You know, in terms of like, I'd put it right there with fucking Raiders of the Lost Ark and shit of being like constant entertainment through the whole thing. You know,
I would too. I mean, for its earliness, and I know that it had okay, so it had claymation creatures.
it did.
So the fuck what? I mean, claymation creatures are fucking awesome, especially
really
if they're
are.
done really well. And I think that okay, so maybe he might have ripped some of these creatures from the pages of Ray Harryhausen's playbook, but which. Let's be honest, he did because there is a creature exactly like that first guy in the last scene when he's like, I just want to touch your tits, you know?
Yeah. Dude, that big Cyclops like thing, right? Because isn't there a Cyclops type thing almost just like that? And it is Harryhausen. I think it's in Clash of the Titans, maybe.
Yeah, I think there was one there, and I know that there was a Cyclops in several of Mr. Big's films because there was the Cyclops, but I don't think that those are more where the creatures are just big against the screen, like Village of the Giants kind, you know.
Well, and like the fight with that weird bird cockroach robot thing, that was totally supposed to be like the fight with the skeletons that Harryhausen did. I think that
I know, right?
Jason and Argonauts, maybe. I could be totally getting those wrong, the movies, but it's definitely a Harryhausen thing, you know.
No, there's definitely a lot of tribute to. I call it an homage to like the science fiction era. Because I know that there were a lot of 1940s and 50s science fiction flicks.
Well, it's got that total pulp magazine art too in the intro segment, like all that badass fantasy sci-fi art in there. That shit's awesome, dude. I mean,
oh yeah, and this one, this first one at least, this first film is set up like a motion comic a picture, serial, whatever you want to call it. So it's set up to be adventurous too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really like those are the little things that sold me on it. Because going into it, I thought it was just going to be like a stupid porno comedy, which it is, you know, in a lot of ways. But the genuine tribute to the shit they put in there makes it fucking awesome.
It has more to it, and I think that a lot of people seem to look at this kind of thing and be like, "Oh, there's all kinds of sex in it." Ew, you know, looking at it from a Christian point of view, you know, and it's
just like, looking at it like it's just a flesh flick and not a legitimate spoof at the same time, you know.
So, what did you think of Dale Arter, played by Suzanne Fields?
She was okay. I mean, she's like, she had that shit down pat where she screamed and shrieked enough, like where it was still kind of funny when she was doing it because she was getting fucked with pretty hard. But it was like, never crossed over into being obnoxious. She doesn't serve much of a purpose outside of that. She wants a piece of flesh, but he doesn't seem very interested, and he's too busy having various kinds of sex throughout the thing.
There is always that nagging question of whether some of these actors and actresses in these softcore porn flicks, whether they actually did it on screen or not. What do you think? Did anything happen on screen?
Man, it seemed like there was some times where there had to have been something going on, you know,
Did it
especially in those flesh
accidentally
piles when
slip
they're.
in a couple of times? I don't know, man.
There was at the very least some oral stimulation going on in some of those fucking scenes. But again, it's all done in such a way where it's like you don't really ever feel uncomfortable by it. It's more of there as a peripheral fucking chuckle factor, you know, like, oh shit, this guy's just chilling out here smoking his dick-shaped hookah while he's fucking watching an orgy or an orgy. Fucking.
Do you feel like this film in any way tries to disrespect women in any way, shape, or form?
No, and that's something important that I did want to bring up because Flesh himself gets kind of traded for some sex at one point with a dude. You know, that Robin Hood guy. Yeah. Or whatever. Fucking, he uses flesh like a little piece of meat right there.
I was thinking that he was kind of a Robin Hood kind of a guy. It's like he was... he was stripped right from Shrek. Or actually maybe Shrek stripped him from there. So
yeah, they might have borrowed a little bit from Flesh Gordon.
But in any case,
no, but I thought that you know, the dudes got made to look just as foolish. Fucking old Flexi Jerkoff was running around holding people at nipple point with the power pasties and shit. That was like one of my favorite things of the fucking movie right there.
Well, originally
everybody kind of got it, you know. It wasn't just chicks. It wasn't just poor Dale getting her clothes.
Well, originally, in the original Flash Gordon, Flash Gordon was Flash Gordon. Dale Ardor was Dale Arden. Emperor Wang, the perverted, was Ming the Merciless. Scientist Dr. Flexi Jerkoff was Dr. Alexei Zarkov. And the seductive Amora, Queen of Magic, was Min's daughter, Aura. So, have you ever seen Flash Gordon?
Oh, yeah. I've seen the movie a bunch. Not so much the old serials, but, you know, definitely the movie and the Queen song on the soundtrack have always been like a favorite thing for me, so...
Okay, so you relatively have a good sense of the background of this character.
Yeah, enough that I knew that it was like, okay, they clearly did their homework on spoofing this, you know.
Most definitely. So, so this is kind of the storyline. So apparently, this death ray is turning people against each other with these wild sex orgies. Like, evidently, sex was a crime back in the 70s, apparently, because it was the end of the 60s, early 70s, the drug period. Come on. Yeah. But
so those key parties were going on all the time, you know.
But definitely
in the fishbowl.
Well, because it's got that 1950s appeal. They've got that 1950s thinking, like sex is like against the law, you know, having too much sex or something.
Well, and isn't it that fucking old Wang got his cock devoured by a penis flytrap, and that's why he like wants to inflict everybody with the sexual frustration or whatever?
Yeah, right. So
I thought that was pretty great.
I love that they actually gave him kind of a backstory. I mean, they kind of gave every character in here kind of a backstory as well, and I think they fleshed it out really well. So they end up having to go to the planet Porno, for which is where Wang is from. What do you think about the people? Uh-oh. You might be leaving me. All right. Don't know what happened there.
I don't know. It just said like something went wrong. Try again or something.
All right. So, what do you think about the people that evidently were enslaved by Mr. Wang?
That were what?
That were not exactly enslaved, but the people of Porno.
I thought they seemed like a good, spirited bunch of folks. They had their cheerleaders. They seemed like they were enjoying themselves. It sucks that they all got blown fucking bits, but they seemed to like what they were doing, and taking pride and passion in it. They were Wang seemed like a chill dude. I mean, he just wanted everyone to have orgies or whatever.
Yeah, which on a side note, would having orgies be technically a bad thing?
Wouldn't it be what now?
What would what Wang wanted to do to planet Earth and the people of Earth by giving them a bunch of wild sex orgies, would that necessarily actually be a bad thing? Technically,
No.
if you actually thought about it.
Yeah, I don't see how there was a real problem with what he was doing. Maybe don't fire it at planes that are in mid-flight, but other than that, a little like fucking orgy day would probably do people some good. Maybe, I don't know.
Definitely. So I actually enjoy this movie for many reasons. Not just because of the spoofing or anything like that. It's just the storylines behind it, and it just gets raunchier by the minute. I mean, there's just a. Give us one moment, folks. We lost Mo for a moment, but alrighty.
This thing is fucking revolting against us or something, dude.
I know, right? But in any case, so myself, I heard about this from actually my fiance, and I went out and found it, and I watched it, and I've loved it ever since. And evidently, Hen's Tooth put it out on DVD, and there it is.
Very nice.
I'm not sure if it's gotten a Blu-ray yet or not, but I know that I like the copy of it. It doesn't seem like it's got that much VHS lines in it or anything like that, because I know it was probably on a VHS at one point in time.
Oh, I would think so. Yeah. But, yeah, I'd definitely like to get a copy of it. It's I'd go as far as to consider it kind of a classic after seeing it.
Oh yeah. I mean, going on its age, it's definitely held up well, and I think that the jokes are clean enough, even though they're dirty.
Right. Yeah.
They're clean enough that you can have some fun with it on a drinking night or something like that. You can have some fun with it, and
certainly,
it's definitely not like the humor of Thanksgiving 3 for all that matter.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely got some jokes in it that are legitimately funny. Some of the people really, you can tell, actually got into their characters. Like Wang, he was just living it up in that role.
I would have to say that Wang is actually my favorite character out of the whole bunch, because even though it seemed like he was trying to be a little bit evil because of his giant toilet bowl flush, royal flush.
That was great.
It's just toilet humor. I mean, it's fucking hilarious. I mean, you got the raping robots.
The rapist robots. Those are fucking, they're drill cocks.
Which kind of reminded me of like some of the Puppet Master dolls, just a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
because of their drill heads.
Yeah. It's, and him and I think him and Flexi Jerkoff got into it the most of all the characters, and I think that's why they're my favorites. Like when he's lifting up, when he's like, should I give it to him or whatever, and he's holding people at nipple point. That is just one of my favorite fucking things I've ever seen. It's hard not to love him by the end.
Well, to me, it kind of I mean, there are similar worlds, like in, like to me, know how in Austin Powers they had the fembots.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you know anything about Vincent Price in the Girl Bomb movies.
I don't know if I've ever seen any of those.
I'll have to get you into them. But they're earlier spy spoof kind of movies, and they are reminiscent of the fembots in there.
I bet you Austin Powers had to have taken something from him, because that seems like an amalgamation of that kind of stuff. And now knowing that there is like earlier versions of shit like that.
Well,
isn't there there's like an early spoof of James Bond too? I forget what it's called now. Maybe Casino Royale.
The original Casino Royale, which was with Peter Sellers.
Yeah, so it's like the Austin Powers thing, I think, came at a time when people had forgotten that stuff like this used to happen.
Well, and to me, Flesh Gordon is on the level with like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, films of that nature.
It's fucking funny, man. I hadn't laughed out loud that fucking hard in a long time, man. Especially like right from the beginning, like when that fucking ray hits and the pilots are up there in the cockpit of the plane and that guy's like, Captain, I got a giant boner. Like, you're in for good shit. And it just is unrelenting the entire time.
I said at that moment, because I rewatched this shit earlier today, I was like, yeah, just put it on a pilot. You'll be good.
They dove right in, man. That is one thing I'll say about the effects of this movie is they had the tearaway clothing down. It just tore right away, real easy.
Yeah, I mean, they did some really cool practical effects for that sex ray, having that fiery kind of substance just shoot down and be more or less the power of the sex ray.
Yeah, that was nice.
That was a nice touch to that. And whenever they went, they went to the planet Porno, and then they ended up. This is what they ended up doing. They ended the doctor, Dr. Lexi or Flexi, ended up getting sent to the laboratory, and he in turn was going to create this weapon to deactivate the sex spray. What did you think about the way that he was going to do that by attaching something to his fucking nipples?
Oh, that was great. Just the whole idea of those nipple pasties being the weapon to stop the dick-shaped fucking sex ray was amazing, man. I love that he wore them too. I did not expect that. I assumed they would adapt them into some type of ray gun, but when he first lifted up his shirt and he was like, should I give it to him? I about died. That was just so amazing. I like that whole sequence.
I think I like that actor too. I mean, he played
he's good.
He played his fucking over the topness to a fucking flying J,
Yeah, he did really great, man. You could tell he was having a lot of fun with it. Him and Wang, I think, had the most fun out of anyone on the cast. And the extras, I guess, that just got to ride around and have orgies the whole time.
I think that everyone involved in the project looked like they were having fun, though.
Oh, for sure.
It wasn't like they were being treated entirely too badly. I think it was just a lot of fun humor. Some of it may have been over the top towards nudity or sexness, but it was lighter than I thought it would be. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Yeah, you could be forgiven going into it expecting it to be like a full-on porno, basically, and it's not. It's really is just like a fun comedy spoof that happens to have some graphic nudity and sexual scenes in it. I think the most of which too was probably where they're trying to initiate poor Dale into the underground Amazon society or whatever, and they're like forcing her to do some muff diving. That was the only part of it where it was like maybe just because that scene was so long, I could see that making people uncomfortable.
It could
But
have. It
yeah,
could have.
other than that, the sex stuff is such and good fun that even when they're having the orgies, it's like hard not to laugh at it.
Well, yeah. I mean, it
And
just
so it's
it
done
kind of
very
goes,
well.
and I think it kind of goes from subject to subject pretty well too. I mean, the movie was meant to be one of those films where it's either going to make you love it or it's going to make you look away in grotesqueness.
Right.
or
I mean, there are some
something
stuff
like
in it too that would, I'd say it's pretty progressive in a lot of ways. He had to fight some chicks with dicks. If you
that.
notice, all the girls like have boy names and all the boys have girl names and stuff.
Mhm.
Uh, I forget what he calls his main spy I think it's Deborah or something like that.
Mhm.
Like those are those little subtly funny things that they could have gotten away with just dick jokes the whole time, but they did that, and it is actually kind of funny just for that moment when he comes in and he's Deborah or whatever the fuck. This pretty butch dude, actually. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, everybody kind of got it. The dudes got treated sort of objectified just like the women did, and it was all in good enough fun that it's just good for laughs, really.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm just gonna look at where it might have actually been filmed. Let's see.
I kind of didn't really research the movie yet, but I looked at the credits and some of the names sounded like foreign, but obviously the people are speaking good English through the whole thing, so I don't know.
Well, it was released in the U.S. in 1974. So, evidently the filming locations were Producer Studios, 5330 Melrose Avenue, Hollywood, Los Angeles. So it was done in Hollywood, California.
Nice. Well, there you go. Yeah, it looks like it could have been a soundstage movie kind of thing. I mean, I imagine that it got some play in foreign markets, though. And I feel like when I was getting the poster, I saw a couple of Spanish posters for it, which I guess skin flicks tend to do good no matter where they're at in the world, So
Well, yeah. I think there are some really cool flicks that do elsewhere pretty awesomely. Whereas in the USA, it's like we're a bunch of knobs.
Yeah, when it comes to certain stuff, for sure. So it's like even American-made movies that like did horrible here sometimes do great in random other regions,
Which I imagine that this movie was because it was a comical spoof. Nobody really entirely paid that much attention to it. They probably got the humor at the time. They just, I don't know. They probably didn't have the sense of humor that some of us can actually enjoy it to this day.
Right. Yeah, it's good stuff. I think it probably is sort of criminally overlooked by people, also because of like how on the nose the name is. But how else are you going to do that? I mean, that's the main inspiration for the movie is Flash Gordon. So,
if you had a favorite scene from this movie, what would it be?
Oh god, there's a lot of little ones, like when he's fucking whipping that dude's ass with that stick, flexing when he comes up on him in disguise, and they kind of carry that forward later where they win a sword fight with like a couple of umbrellas. I thought that shit was really fucking funny. As far as like major scenes go, I don't know. I'm really partial to the whole fight with the she-males. I thought that was fucking really funny for some reason. And just that whole sequence where that lady's like, no, he's mine. And then she zaps him away to her fucking swan ship and they have like crazy acid trip sex up there. That whole sequence was pretty cool. Like, even if you took away the tits and ass from it. And then I don't know. I think if I had to just pick a favorite, it's that whole sequence with that fucking Ray Harryhausen creature at the end. He seemed like a chill dude. It sucks that he couldn't just hang out with that girl.
Right?
Yeah, he wasn't a very ferocious monster. I don't like how he was. Like, I just love murder. Okay. That was great. And he's like, "This is Murder Tower. I hang out up here sometimes." Like that whole shit just really made me laugh.
Yeah, I think my favorite scene in here was probably the royal flush.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I don't know why, but that just whole sequence from where they were swimming in the pipes.
Yeah, dude, I like how when they thought they were dead, he had like all the people have a good naked conga line, and they're singing that song about how Flesh Gordon's dead. That's fucking awesome.
I swear to God that particular scene was probably ad-libbed.
Yeah, it seemed like it was almost, you know. I thought that shit was hilarious, though. There's a lot of ones, like when they're on the dick rocket at first and they get hit with the rays and they're like, oh no, and then they have a quick orgy right there, a threesome or whatever. But there's like a point where they're like crawling around behind each other in a circle. Like, it's just little fucking things like that that'll really make you laugh watching it, you know.
Oh yeah.
I loved how fucking Wang kept calling people dildos. That was just so expertly delivered that you could imagine that dude maybe even did that shit when he wasn't in character.
Fucking dildo.
Stop shouting, you dildo. I love that
shit. Trust me, every time you watch this movie, you're gonna see something different every time. And to me, I know I noticed a lot more this time than I did last time, and I still have to finish the other one. Rewatching it, I'm like 3/4 of the way through, but I know I love each of them in their own way. But I will have to say I did enjoy number 2 better for some reason. Maybe because of its number 2 humor.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I like this one a lot just because of how genuine of a tribute it is to that old school serial stuff. I even loved how it had the intermission that cut in towards like the end, you know. You play some good music while you go get your popcorns and things like that.
I think that's why I enjoy this this one too. It's not quite up. I guess they're 2 different caliber of films, even though one is directed by just the one director instead of having the hand of the screenwriter for this the script writer, because Michael Benveniste, he's actually the script writer or the for this film, but he's also co-director. So
right.
So to me, I think having the 2 together, I think that's what kind of pulled the balance between sick humor and you know, just clean humor.
Right. Yeah.
So, but in any case, what did you think about the special effects in the rest of the film? Do you think they were pretty cool for its time period?
Yeah, I definitely thought that watching it, like, you know, everything from the stop motion claymation type stuff
I almost
to
feel
the
like that was stock.
miniatures, you know.
I almost feel like that was part stock footage.
It maybe could have been, you know. The miniatures definitely seemed spot on. I mean, like when they fired the dick rocket out the side of that guy's house at the beginning and stuff. There's little scenes in it like that that I thought were super fucking cool. It's, you know, it's got stuff in it that if I like saw it as a kid, I wouldn't understand some of the fucking the dick and balls humor or whatever, but I would still just think the movie looked really cool, you know.
I would have to say so too. And I know I've seen quite a few irregular movies, but I think that these two films put together out top some of the sexier softcore films. It's like these two are like all of a caliber of their own. It's like one is the exact opposite of the other, because this one's trying to give everyone sex. The other one's trying to take it all away. So,
right, yeah, and it's, you know, I think that it's entertaining. It's got enough entertainment value to it that you don't even necessarily have to like have interest in other types of films like that. I'm going to recommend it to people just as a funny movie, you know. Just like, be forewarned, there's a lot of nudity, but it's fucking funny. You should get, you know, have a few beers, give it a look, kind of thing.
Definitely. I mean, it's not exactly your. I mean, going into it thinking about it, you think it's gonna be like a really bad movie, and yes, okay, yeah, it is a bad movie, but it's a really bad movie, acted really well, and with special effects that were probably beyond its time period.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, it's like most of the stuff about it that's bad is intentionally bad, you know, like it's very self-aware humor in a lot of it, I think. And they knew what they were doing. It's the perfect balance of like intentionally campy and a little bit sleazy and genuinely funny, you know. So
did you happen to notice any music in the film, whether it stood out to you at any given point in time?
Honestly, no, you know, like that I didn't even think about it till you just said something about it. I'm sure there was some in there. I would assume they had like some of your classic serial type, you know, adventure music at different points, maybe.
Yeah, it might have been some regurgitated soundtracks from some 50s, 60s, or earlier 40s, kind of a, you know, theatrical vibe, you know.
Right. I feel like I remember liking the whatever you'd call it, the weird sort of haunting sounds around that whole like love scene when they're on the fucking that swan ship of that one lady that has the fucking titty pasties or whatever. That shit, like, and the whole imagery of that was really trippy, and it kind of had like a little 70s porno beat almost underneath like the soundtrack. Weird sort of, I felt like it was like some weird synthy type stuff, but again, the imagery was something I was focusing on so much in the movie because it did actually have some pretty fucking cool imagery throughout it, you know. Cool creatures,
most definitely.
Cool ships. Yeah, I haven't liked the fucking dildo ships or whatever the dudes Wang's little minions, their lizard ships or whatever. I thought those looked pretty cool. They had like that awesome 50s sci-fi vibe to them.
Well, what's interesting is that Japanese warplanes actually had similar painted faces on their planes, and that's what I was thinking when I saw that alligator looking like lizard ship where the mouth just opened and closed.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I even enjoyed. Was it in the first one that they actually had ladybug ships?
Yeah, and then remember they're in one and they get caught in that tractor beam and it like pulls them into that chomping mouth on the front of the castle. I thought that was awesome too.
Ladybugs.
And the umbrellas as the parachutes was just so stupid but so fucking funny too. And then they win the sword fight with it after they fucking land.
Well, yeah, that's that cartoon humor where you think you're just going to slowly float down to the ground by using that shit.
Yeah, I'm sure lots of kids have snapped a leg trying it in real life, but yeah, that shit was pretty funny. I don't know. See, it is kind of like at least I was so swept up in it. I really wasn't paying attention to the soundtrack, which usually I try to do, but I was too busy laughing. And
neither was I. I didn't really notice the soundtrack. Maybe next time that I watch it, which I'll probably rewatch it again before next week, because then I mentioned a little bit of the second one, but I pretty much want to have two separate standalone because I think they're both like different, only because they're like years apart from each other. You know, and this definitely had a different vibe to it than the other one, even though it still kept true to it.
Right. Yeah, so, which is super cool. It's cool that they came back to it and did more too. Definitely lends to that serial sort of fucking tradition or whatever.
Most definitely. So ultimately, was there anything else that you wanted to mention about this film to the audience before we move on here?
Not too much that I can think of. I mean, it's just everything that we've been touching on, like the acting, the special effects, the general humor outside of just the tits and ass and dick jokes and stuff is all well worth taking note of when you watch it, and then just let that other sort of kinkiness exist around it. And I don't know, man. I'm kind of almost, it's hard to give enough praise to this, I think, because
I know because to me, I actually find this kind of a high caliber spoof film. I mean, it's more than just a spoof film. It's almost a film on its own. Like it created a like an alter ego of Flash Gordon, and it like could actually be like its own standalone character.
It's well done enough with enough genuine love for that kind of stuff that it makes it legit.
Oh yeah, I could definitely see this as being like a parallel universe.
Right. Yeah. It's like Earth v. Flash Gordon. It's Flash Gordon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. I like it. That's the way I'm gonna think of it from now on.
Exactly. Right. So
the shit's canon.
Well, it would be interesting to see if they ever returned to it in the modern age. What could they do to the story that they haven't already done?
Yeah, I don't know.
But you never know. I mean, this film does hold to me. This is like one of my top 15. I mean, that's why I've been going through some of them with you and with Boris, and some other people, because I just love going through them. And actually, this is the first time that I've actually gone on about this particular film in any way, shape, or form. So I haven't even reviewed it. So,
oh shit! Well, thanks a ton for having me with you on it, man. I was happy to discover it and watch it finally. It's definitely one that everybody, if you're a fan of campy humor or science fiction movies in general, or obviously like skin flicks as well, give it a look. It's like I said, it's kind of to Flash Gordon what Spaceballs is to Star Wars, I think.
Oh yeah. In any case, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's all the time that we have for today. We have another thrilling discussion to get to at about 9 o'clock in about an hour. So definitely keep a lookout for that. It will be the Star Wars Holiday Special from 1978, another film
Yeah.
from the 1970s. So
Oh yeah. Don't,
I'm glad that we're covering some films from that era, so that people can be like, what the fuck?
yeah, there's good stuff back there. I'm not gonna go on record yet as saying that the next one was one of them, but we'll
Alrighty.
burn that
Well,
bridge when we cross it. Okay.
stay tuned, folks, for that episode, and hopefully you will have a great day, evening, or morning wherever you are. I appreciate your traffic, and I'm sure Mo will tell you go check out his page. So why don't you tell me, Mo, what your page is, and then I'll go into what mine is, and we'll tell them who we are.
No, alrighty. Well, I do some reviews for movies and occasional Game Boy pickups and stuff like that over on Drunken Master Studios. If you want to give that a look, and also sub up Rebel Gaming Club for good like weekly variety shows. I participate in those on occasion, and it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. And my name is David Strege. I run Inside Move. Actually, I kind of sort of run it, but I run it with the rest of some of these guys that I seem to hang out with. So definitely catch out some of our previous stuff. It's entertaining. It's out on YouTube. Some of it is out on Spotify, and I'll get that up to date eventually as well. Working my way to getting ourselves out to the open. So. Thank you all for listening to that so far. And I also do reviews and pickup videos on my channel called Delusions of Grandeur. So definitely check out some of those. I've been sort of backlogged on doing some of my reviews there, but I do plan on getting back and getting some of my reviews out there. I still have an American Horror project that I've been somewhat sifting through to try to finish my series of those films, and I'll have a review of Death Toilet 2 coming out eventually when I get my thoughts gathered on that. So thank you for listening. Have a great day, evening, and morning. Stay tuned for more holiday films.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be sexy, dude. Life Day.
All righty.